Hello guys and welcome to today's video. Today we are back with the 9.1.6 Orochi boss. Probably said wrong, but apologies for that. So this boss is actually probably the easiest boss for quite a while if you've got the right counter, obviously. Lady Deathstrike is by far the best counter. Straight off the bat, it's all about putting debuffs onto Orochi. That's the base of the fight. You put his debuffs on, as you can see on the right. I'm putting 5 or 6 ruptures on, and then to the right of that, there's those grey icons. When they get to 10, it goes to yellow. You then want to bait a heavy, or try and extend that timer for as long as possible. And then once you've done that, so you see here, I'll bait a heavy, and then you throw your special, you intercept the heavy with a special attack, and then that deals a burst of damage on however many debuffs you have put on onto that grey icon. That's as simple as it is. That is all that happens in basically all 6 phases. Nothing changes. You play the same way. That yellow timer gets paused when Orochi throws special attacks, and when you throw special attacks, so that again is very, very useful. This will show the end of the phase. So you can see there, I finished phase 1. So that's it very simply. The best way to understand it is, of course, as we always say, to do the fight. But yeah, it's a quite a simple fight with, as I said, the right counter. The best counters for this are Lady Deathstrike. Shuri can be used, but you'll see I give her a go, and it's just not as effective or as efficient as you probably think it would be. So Lady Deathstrike is by far the best. There are other bits in the fight that I will note down now, but the main crux of the fight is you put debuffs on, you get that yellow timer on, you build it up as much as you can. So obviously the more debuffs you do, the bigger that burst of damage when you intercept her heavy with a special, and that's it. They're the phases. So we'll describe the phases in a bit more, because obviously each phase has something a little different, but the fight stays the same. So it's more just debuffs on her or effects that she may have. So first things first with Orochi, there's some things to know. She is immune to stun, bleed, heal, block, petrify, spectre. So that big regen that you can see going doesn't really affect you during the fight, because, as I said, she is immune to heal blocks. You can see all this fight is without a heal block. Bleed is the big one though, so you can't bring in champions like Venom who will put lots of bleeds on, or other champions like that. There's also no cheat death, so you can't become indestructible or immortal, so that's something to also note. And all attacks onto you inflict a bleed and poison passive, so you will see that later on into the fight. She hits into the block. That inflicts a bleed or poison, or if she hits you. These are through the block, as I mentioned, but they also are reduced. So you can see there's bleed and poisons on me there, but these chances are reduced by how many armor ups you have. So you can see Lady Deathstrike has quite a few armor ups here, so it's reduced quite a lot. So they're the things to sort of note. It's also worth noting that she does, as talking about when we spoke about the regen, she instantly heals 95% of all damage taken. The regen can't be prevented, so you can't use Warlock, you can't have the Despair Mastery. For each damage over time effect, you do reduce her regen by 5%, so if you've got 10, it's reduced by 50%, 20, obviously, 100%. But it can't go below 50%, so the most you can get is 10, so that 20, 100% is not true. Damage over time can be a debuff or passive, any of the types work. So if you're going to bring in Shuri and you've got 25 and 25, at some point that will obviously be huge and you'll do big damage, but ramping up to that is sort of the main thing. And then finally, the damage over time effects are reduced by 50%, but their duration is doubled, so they will last that little bit longer. You can put a passive poison on Orochi to count as another debuff. To do this, you need to either intercept, to put a striker on, or to put a heal block. So obviously Lady Deathstrike's quite good with that light ending attack. You put a heal block on, so something to note there. So what are the bits about the fight? So the grey icon, we're starting again here, not completely, but a new phase. I've tried Shuri, you'll see she doesn't really work. I left this in to show you that she can work, but I just played it really poorly. I got hit a couple times. Those bleed and poisons really smashed me down because I was so used to playing with Lady Deathstrike. But, you know, Shuri can work, and that's something worth noting for sure. You can see here I'm building up debuffs quite nicely. I intercepted, but those bleed and poisons just doing a bit too much for me. So as we mentioned, the base of the kit is you want to put her Orochi into Violent Purge. That is when it goes yellow, or when that little timer comes on. That is the Violent Purge. It triggers when there's 10 plus damage over time effects. So as soon as you hit 10, it starts to count down. It lasts for 10 seconds and is paused during all of her special attacks. So again, you can extend it by pushing her to specials and letting her throw those. You can see here it's paused. It triggers when it gets to 10, and all damage over effects are paused while Violent Purge is active. So you can see here my ruptures aren't going anywhere. I'm just able to build quite a few more. So as I said, interrupter heavy there with the special attack. That does a burst of however many damage over time effects you have, and it also pauses the regen. So Lady Deathstrike is by far the best counter. Ironheart is the second best probably, and Guillotine 2099 is good because she's got a damage over time immunity, or she's got damage over time, but she's also got immunity to both poison and bleed. So she does make the fight a little bit longer. Lady Deathstrike is by far the quickest, but Ironheart is a very good champion to use as well. You can also use champions like Onslaught, Scorpion, Gore, Shuri, anyone with lots of damage over time effects. I think Vox is quite good. But you have to remember you can't use a bleed. And then we'll finally talk through her phases. So in phase 1, no additional effects. In phase 2, she has a 20% inexorable. So for 1 second after her specials, you can use a heavy to remove it, but really it's not that big an issue. In phase 2, this becomes 5 seconds after her specials end. And all these effects remain, so you can see that inexorable is still on her there. All her specials are passively unblockable in 4. Again, not an issue. All of them are easy to dex. In phase 5, she gains a Fury passive, doubling her attack. So if you don't get hit, then obviously that doesn't matter. And those passive bleed and poisons will also, that get put on you will be a little bit stronger. And then finally, her specials don't cost power in phase 6. Power locked at 1.9 bars, and attacking during or after her special drains 50% bar of power. Her regen and Violent Purge are disabled. So that was what you just saw on screen. Sorry, what you will see on screen now is that last little phase. You just take her to the complete end, all of her 100% HP done. That phase ends and the fight is over. So coming up now will be the final phase. As I mentioned, regen is off. Obviously, that makes the fight that little bit easier. You just take her down from 100% HP and that's the fight. So hopefully this video has helped you out. If it has, please leave a like, do subscribe. As I mentioned, or as I forgot to mention at the start, we've got that first little clip, which is just the fight loop. And then I've just trimmed that from the initial fight, show you the fight loop, and then put all the phases in order. The phases aren't too much to worry about. They are relatively easy. I think this fight was very, very simple. The inexorable can be annoying, but it actually just keeps her a little bit close because you can dex all her specials. It's not too big an issue as long as you haven't got a champion who isn't immune to bleed or poison or lots of armor ups. So obviously it just makes her easier to hit into your block. Hope this video, as I said, has helped you. If it has, and you are new around here, do like and subscribe. We will have the 9.1.1, 9.1.2, etc., all those videos out very, very soon, and hopefully giving you an easy run through the fight. She's KO'd. That's the game. Goodbye.